For your dog? Who do we have here?
This is Rocky.
Rocky?
Yeah.
I thought it was Rocky, but then I have two champs that I've seen, and I think your last name was Campion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I was like, was it Champ? No, Rocky, right? So it looks like some aggression issues. Now, are you looking to try to find a solution, or are you looking to rehome? Because I did read that on the consultation.
I mean, if we can't find a solution, we're gonna have to rehome him.
Okay. So I'll have to talk to Tina, just as FYI for you, is we don't help rehome dogs. It is very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay? Because essentially you're saying here's liability.
Right, exactly.
However, I just did a consult with a family who has come across a trainer that helps rehome dogs.
Okay.
As far as I know, like Rocky.
Okay.
Because their dog actually bit the husband and it bit the wife. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's not any aggression that I would say is low level. I would say that's considerable.
This is too. He bit everyone in our family.
So I told him, I was like, the fact that you have that as a resource is really good.
Yeah.
And in that case, because it was a mismatch with the family, I said, I suggest you just rehome this dog, because I don't think the family and the dog are clicking very well, which in my career of training dogs for 15 years has only happened like 3 times. Okay. Where I just come and I go, this is clearly a bigger problem than training alone is going to fix.
Yeah.
Okay. Once I assess the case, I can give you an idea, but we don't rehome dogs. I did attempt that. I've done it maybe 2 or 3 times in my career. 2 of them took me at least 2 years before they got a home. I have one currently who I've had for 4 years and I can't find a home. And she's loves people. She loves kids. She's just got dog issues. The problem is she needs a very strict home, and a home with no dogs. And everybody that meets her, just like, oh my God, I'm gonna spoil you. I'm like, then you're not the right home for this dog.
Yeah.
So I cannot find anybody for her. Okay. So that's the other part, is that whenever someone takes a dog like Rocky, it's essentially like you're either gonna have this dog for the rest of their life, or if you do find someone, they're willing to undertake the responsibility of the liability that potentially comes with that dog.
Right.
So, okay. So tell me about Rocky.
Well, Rocky has a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he trusts anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he has certain people in the house that he protects over others. One is me and one is my son, Callan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you cross that person, he will bite you. And he's also very possessive. Like, he's obsessed with socks for some reason, but if you try to take them away, he'll try to bite you.
Okay.
Or almost anything that he's being protective over.
Mm-hmm. And then I saw you try training before.
Yeah.
Was it group training or was it private training?
Both. We tried group training, and that really didn't work. I mean, we learned stuff like, leash pulling and, walk alongside of us and stuff like that, but nothing to calm his
behavior.
Yeah.
Did they use prong or remote collar?
No.
No, just food?
Yeah.
Okay.
He responds well to food.
Even with the private training, it was just food?
Yeah.
How many private training sessions did you do?
We did 6.
Oh, so you did a full thing, and the whole thing was just food?
Yeah.
And was this after like the problems? Like, did you tell him like, hey, I have these behavior issues?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm familiar with the facility that you trained with.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that they just stuck to food, considering that there's aggression issues.
They did ask about the collar, but my husband or my husband said no, and we're kind of at the point where we have no choice.
Okay. That's usually so remote collar or e-collar is, people tend to think of it as a last resort because of how humans think, but for me it's always the first, because it's the best tool in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. For a number of reasons. One, right off the bat, you get off-leash control, because every other tool is dependent on having something clipped to your dog, right?
Yeah.
So if you're using a prong collar, you need to have a leash on the dog. If you're using a flat collar or a gentle leader or a harness, everything requires a clip on the dog, right? And the leash in your hand, either a 30-foot leash or a 6-foot leash, right? Remote collar is the only tool that without the leash on or off, you have ability to communicate with the dog, okay? So, and I've had things happen to clients that after the first class, like for example, I had a client whose dog, they were at the park because they were social, and we had just had one class, but in the one of the dogs ran out, and then their dog chased that dog. but they were able to use the collar to stop their dog while the other dog continued. Like emergency situations like that.
Yeah.
So e-collar is, you're not electrocuting the dog, which is what most pet people tend to think. They think it's electrocution. That's incorrect, okay? Are you familiar with TENS therapy?
I don't think so.
Have you ever seen or been to a chiropractor or a physical therapist where the machine that moves the muscles?
Yeah.
That's an e-collar.
Okay.
Okay, so they use technology in humans all the time. But when humans think electric, they usually again think electrocution. And they go, no, they use this technology on people all the time. Okay. I've had clients who thought the same thing, and then when I told them they were a TENS unit, they're like, well, I'm a physical therapist, I do this all the time. I go, yes. I was like, now you know what the technology is.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a muscle contraction, it's a muscle stimulator. It's not a current running through his body.
Okay.
Okay, so he's not going to jump in water and then all of a sudden it's like a toaster, like he just electrocuted. Okay, that does not happen.
Right.
The collars that we use are waterproof. Any other collar would simply just short. Okay, they would just stop working. Okay, so your dog is giving you a very good example of how dogs communicate. Okay, when we look at a dog biting things or people, right, it's usually labeled with aggression, but typically that label is also prefaced by another label. We have maternal aggression, we have territorial aggression, we have resource aggression, we have fear aggression, anxiety aggression. It's something tied to the aggression, and that something is what's fueling everything.
I would say all the above.
All the above. So, yeah, there's something tied to that, right? Now, in some cases, the dog is simply correcting. So, like, let's say I came into your personal space right now and Rocky jumped to bite me. You might go, oh, that's aggressive. And it could be in terms of how he's doing it. But really, he's saying, don't get too close to my mom's personal space. That's technically a correction, right? So as long as I stay without that boundary, I would have no issue with Rocky. Does that make sense? So dogs use this physicality to communicate. They use it to correct. They use it to protect. They use it to play. When dogs play with each other, they grab on their jowls and they pull and they bite, right? They use it as a form of affection. You might have even seen a dog where they nibble with their teeth like this, right? Dogs are very mouth-based creatures. The issue is it doesn't translate well into our world.
Right.
Okay? So when we deal with dogs that, like in this case, it seems like the aggression is starting to spread.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like it may have started with one thing and over the course of time it's become something else.
Yeah,
something
for
else.
sure.
Is that how?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason why that can happen is that the dog realizes, hey, this thing happened, I didn't like it. I used my teeth and I got the solution that I wanted. So then the dog goes, oh. So then something else happens and the dog goes, I don't like this either, but last time this worked. So they try that same solution and it works again. Because obviously nobody wants to get bit, right? And what happens is the dog's ego starts to grow, to put in human terms. And now the dog goes, I'm going to use this method for everything that I don't want to deal with or everything that I don't like. Does that make sense?
You're absolutely right.
So, in my opinion, it's only fair that if a dog can bite you, then you can bite the dog back, okay? But we're taught that that's wrong, but it's not. It all goes about how you approach it. It's one thing if you're using these tools, like any tool can be abused or used incorrectly. Like I could take a baseball bat and it's meant to play baseball, but I could break windows, I could cause physical harm to somebody, I could take that object that's meant for entertainment and turn it around and then make it something bad.
Right.
Does that make sense? So same thing with dog training. The tools that are used are looked at as, oh my God, these are terrible things, but really they were designed in a means of trying to mimic the dog. So like, have you seen a prong collar? That's the one that has the teeth?
Yeah, we've had that.
You've had that, okay. Do you know why it looks like that?
No.
It's meant to mimic a dog bite.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why it has the spikes, right? So, but if you look at it objectively or as a human, you go, oh my God, this looks like a medieval torture device, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the theory behind it, it's meant to mimic a dog bite, okay? That's why it's designed that way, okay? Remote collar was designed for sport dogs or for hunting dogs because they send them out great distances to fetch and return, birds that they've hunted or what have you. And they need something because the dogs go into what we call drive. Drive is when they go into this mode. So if the dog has a high prey drive, they want to harness the prey drive because they can use that to bring back whatever it is that they hunted. But if the dog has too much drive, then we have nothing to get the dog to release, and the dog might just take and run away with the duck or eat the duck themselves, right? You need something to be able to cut through all that stuff. That's where remote collar comes into play, and I like to think of it as a bite on a button. When conditioned correctly, I want the dog to perceive it, understand it, similar to a dog bite, right? So if Rocky is doing something and I go, I disagree with that, When I press the button, I'm essentially biting him saying, I don't want you to do that. You need to stop that behavior.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Your prong collar is technically the same thing. Okay? So if Rocky was trying to bite somebody and I popped the leash with the prong collar, I create a biting motion to tell him, I need you to stop doing what you're doing or stop doing that behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The problem with the prong collar is if the dog is too intense, the prong collar will not override the aggression.
Right.
Okay, because there's different scales and degrees, right? So if we think of it as 1 to 10, if he's at a 10 and if I correct him with the prong collar, the worst I can do is a 4. He's like, you're nowhere near me. I'm going to disregard this. I'm going to continue with this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With remote collar, as long as we have the appropriate collar to the dog, that's really not a thing.
Okay.
Right? Because I can override the dog because we have 127 respective levels of stimulation. Okay. Every collar, like there's low output, there's medium output, there's high output. So like there's dogs that I've seen that are so crazy and they're like his size that I'll put them on a high power output, which is meant for a 70-pound dog and over. And the human goes, oh my God, that's a 25-pound dog with this high powered collar. I go, yes, but all it means is I get more from less because it's higher output.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But again, human logic intervenes and emotions kick in. And then all those things, and then the human goes, no, I don't like this or whatever. And I go, you're not doing anything bad. We do what the dog needs. So if I correct them at a 10 out of 127, and that gets me what I want, then I'm at a 10 out of 127. But I've also had dogs that have to be at 127 out of 127 in order to stop the behavior.
Yeah.
I didn't pick the number. That's the number the dog decided to respond to, right? And everything is with logic. We start low, we work our way up.
Okay.
Okay. So in the beginning, life might be a little hectic because you're trying to find a solution. You want to find a solution quickly. But if I brush through the early stages, if we end up being very high in the collar, the human doesn't understand why. I need the human to see everything, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way up to if we hit 80. And then they go, okay, I understand. Everything else the dog ignored. But the moment I hit 80, all of a sudden I'm making progress.
Yeah.
The human feels better now, right?
Yeah.
Because because I know I'll come in and I'll assess and I'll just go there. That's not a problem for me. But the human, the owner needs to see and understand, because a lot of times if I skip stages, I'll come back and the owner is struggling with the increase in pressure because they're not understanding or seeing the journey from low to whatever it is we end
Okay.
at. Does that make sense?
I hear you. Yeah.
So with the behaviors, if I'm remembering, so we have people coming into the home. Mm-hmm. Okay. He guards you and your son.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it just, do you have multiple children or is it just the one?
I have 4 children, but it's just the one that he guards.
Just the one. When does he guard your son?
When people come in the room.
Okay.
Mostly, yeah, when someone tries to come at him.
Okay. So if he's in the room with your son, they either enter the room.
Yeah.
And he'll trigger.
Yeah.
Does he start barking?
No, he'll just show his teeth.
He shows teeth?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he ever just charge them?
Not usually.
Okay.
He'll either bark or show teeth first.
Okay. If they continue, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He bit me when him and my son were laying in the bed, and I went in there to get him out. He didn't know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark, and I couldn't see that he was triggered, showing his teeth. And I was like, Rocky, get out of here. And he just went at me.
I see. That makes sense. What about if you enter the room and he's like, let's say he's awake with your son and you enter the room, will he still guard him from you?
No.
No, okay. And then vice versa, if it's you and then your son?
No.
No, okay. But it's other people?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So,
Like my husband.
Resource guarding, if he has a sock,
Yeah.
you said, is it like your kids' socks that they're leaving around?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any means of getting him to release?
Yeah.
What do you do now?
I have him sit. And then I say, leave it, and I have a treat in my hand, and he'll eventually leave it and take the treat.
I see. Is this after he escalates? Like, are you able to calm him back down again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. When and the bite, how many bites would you say he's had? A handful? 20?
Yeah, like 10.
10?
Yeah.
Were punctures? Any punctures?
Oh yeah, I was in the hospital for 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did he get you?
Infection on my hand.
Fetching?
Pardon? Infection. I had an infection. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
It was when I went into my son's room.
I see. That time with the moving of the bed and stuff.
Yeah.
Moving him off the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have that one, and then So were all 10 bites punctures or
Yeah.
all of them?
Most all. Some people pulled their hands away and just got scratches, but most of them were pretty bad.
Okay. How long has this behavior been around for?
Since came into our lives, he was a COVID dog, and he especially hates children like coming up to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old is he now?
4.
So you got him at 2 months? Mm-hmm. So ever since he was a puppy, you were seeing these behaviors?
Not right away. It probably took a year or so.
A year?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
No one was in our house.
Yeah, so that happened a lot with COVID dogs.
Yeah.
So 2 things that was spiked during COVID were territorial behavior and separation anxiety, because no one was leaving the home.
Right.
So, and was the trainers you mentioned earlier, they're the only trainers you've used?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about Rocky? Or is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it. Like I said, he responds really good to food.
Sure. Yeah, but food's not going to fix the aggression.
No.
So reinforcement, positive reinforcement is good for things you want to see again. That's why punishers are around, right? Punishers are to deter things. I was raised old school. I was spanked, right? So like I talked back to my mom once in my entire life. Okay, I learned that lesson really fast.
Yeah.
It's old school Mexican upbringing, right?
Sure.
That's how corrections work. Again, now when we talk about physicality or correcting dogs, whatever, it's looked down upon. And I go, if a dog bites you, it's seen as a correction or sometimes aggression. But if you go to correct your dog, it's seen as abuse. Like it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right. But that's why these issues go unresolved and they escalate.
Yeah.
Because he's just being reinforced without any consequence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If he tried that, let's say I have a pit, a Chihuahua, and a Pyrenees mix. Let's say my pit walks into the room and he charges her and nips at her, she'd go boom. Like, who are you to do that to me? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And my pit is not aggressive, but she will defend herself. She's helped me rehab a lot of aggressive dogs. She's 15 now, so she's retired. But she also will protect herself and stand up for herself, right? She's not a dog that goes, okay, she's not a submissive dog. She's a confident dog. So I know if he tried to correct her, she'd be like, no. That ain't gonna happen. And she'll correct them back. And now Rocky has to think. And he goes, I try to assert myself over this dog. She asserted herself right back. Do I want to continue until I get my way? Or do I want to be the one that submits here? Right? Whatever he chooses is a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But you see how that interaction is working?
Yeah.
Okay? So when I come into these cases, a lot of times people think it's coming in, forcing the problem and correcting the problem. That is, to a degree, part of the solution, because we have to press him, to trigger him, to correct him, to teach him that's not a viable option. You have to decide to do something else. We have to teach him there's other choices, okay? There is some degree of obedience training involved because we need to condition him on what the collar is, okay? Conditioning is he's understanding how it turns on and how it turns off. If a dog does not understand these things, problems can escalate. Okay? Because so most people tend to think, oh, my dog is trying to bite me. Let me just shock him. That's just the human brain, right?
Right.
And what happens is the dog goes, this thing happened. I don't like it. I don't know why it happened. And what happens is they become more on edge because it's seemingly random. Mm-hmm. They don't understand where it's coming from,
right?
What they did to trigger it, how to turn it on, and how to avoid it in the future. Okay. So we need to the dog needs to understand that first. So the first thing we always cover is leash walking. Okay. Which is walking without pulling. It's usually 2 classes. But after the second class, typically it's okay. Now we can start jumping into the behavior. Okay. Because it gives the dogs at least 2 weeks to practice and understand. We're also applying the collar in a non-confrontational manner. So like, let's say I entered the room and he was in there with your son and he triggered, that's technically confrontation.
Yeah.
Because I've triggered the behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we first work around it, away from it, to condition. Sometimes the conditioning will impact behaviors within the home. Okay. A proper heel with e-collar conditioning can fix like 70% of problems. Okay. Now the problem with your case is that the issues are surrounding certain context. He's protecting you. He's protecting your son. He's territorial with people entering, right? He's possessive over an object. Those are separate things.
Yeah.
But let's say he had leash reactivity where he saw a dog and he would start lunging and barking.
Yeah.
I would expect that to be resolved. okay? Or like, let's say he's excessively barking in the house.
Yeah.
I would expect that to start to resolve,
Okay.
Because that's usually signs of frustration, the dog unable to relax, okay? So once we start practicing the healing exercise regularly every day, you may notice, oh, Rocky's starting to feel calmer in the house, okay? Sometimes indirectly, because the dog is calmer, we're not seeing the other behaviors as much.
Yeah.
So if the dog is always up here, like a human, if a human is always up here with stress levels, any little thing's gonna just set them over the edge.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with dogs. It's one of the most common things that I see is I come in and the dog is already up here.
Yeah.
And everything's just setting them off. So then I go, we need to bring that stress level down and then see what does that help resolve. And then there's going to be what I call the residual, things that are left over, okay? And I go, all right, these are the things that didn't get addressed with what we did here, and these are the things that did get addressed. So we kind of just forget about those, and now we can really target the problem behaviors.
Got it. It's like a control.
Yes. Now, there's going to be things that we're going to have to give up here.
Yeah.
Like, Rocky is not a dog that you can just allow to have, how'd you say?
Free reign.
Free reign, right? So you've told me he was in the bed with your son, and when you went to go move him, he bit you severely, sent you to the hospital, right? Then I go, then he's not allowed in the bed. I would crate the dog overnight, okay? And if the issue is, well, he barks overnight, well, we're gonna correct that problem, okay? People coming over, we can address that. That's not an issue. People entering your son's room, okay? And this includes like his friends and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So right there, it's a tricky situation because I cannot make Rocky like people entering your son's room.
Right.
Okay. How old is your son?
15.
He's 15. Okay. So your son's mature enough to understand these concepts.
Yeah.
The issue is going to be if his friends come over and then like, kids forgetting stuff or they're being lazy because they want to do something and they skip certain things, there's still going to be possibility of something happening there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So part of this is we're taking control in situations where it's like, yeah, we want Rocky to be involved because we don't want to just keep him locked away all the time.
Right.
And there's going to be avoidance as well. Okay, avoidance would be, I'm going to crate the dog overnight so that I can avoid the situation of him being in my son's bed. I avoid getting bit if because I don't have anything to move now.
Yeah, we put him in the crate whenever anyone comes over.
Okay, so the next thing would be most likely making like your son's room off limits, unless like it's your son's going to be in there by himself, and then let him know like if you're going to have friends come over, make sure you put Rocky away when the friends come over. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't like using the term because of the negative
connotation.
Yes, but it is correct. It's like a prison life for the dog.
Yeah.
Okay? The dog, however, doesn't care. It's the human that cares.
Yeah.
The human goes, oh, but is the dog even happy?
Yeah.
And the dog, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. Okay. He doesn't go, man, why am I in the kennel? I used to be able to sleep in the bed.
Yeah.
Like he's not like a kid. Where if you're like, okay, you know what, you're no longer allowed to have that. The child can understand the loss of that privilege or whatever.
Yeah.
Dogs don't do that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Yes, it's the human hanging on to human things.
Yeah, I hate putting him in a
imposing.
crate.
Yeah. So like kind of with the remote collar, right? In the beginning we said they had talked about it and you guys had said like no, right?
Yeah. Same
thing. Right? It was probably prefaced by this human emotion or this understanding of what it was.
Yeah.
And they should have explained it better. And it happens where emotionally you're like, nope, don't want to do it, period. Right? But that's why we're here. Okay? Because how long ago was that training?
Well, a long time ago, like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
How many bites in that interim do you think you could have avoided?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A
You
lot.
see that? But again, it's what people don't understand.
Right.
Okay? Now, it's not to say that their training would have resolved the problem, because chances are it wouldn't have, because I get a lot of their ex-clientele.
Yeah.
So you did save yourself some money, but you at least may have mitigated some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they're completely, there wouldn't have been any kind of progress, but I think it would have at least mitigated some stuff, right? So when I come in, I'm very realistic with my expectations. I go, I don't sugarcoat it. I don't paint rainbows or anything like that. I go, realistically speaking, this is not a dog that can have the life of like the friendliest, most amicable golden retriever.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
we
then,
already know that.
the other thing I like to remind people is this is going forward. So if he's 4 years old, he's probably got another 10 to 12 years, if not 14 years left, right?
Yeah.
Is you also want to think in the long term. Okay, are we going to be able to do this in the long term, right? There is possibility as he gets older, he becomes more ornery. Okay, that just comes with old age.
Yeah.
My Chihuahua, who is now also 15 years old, I used to do a lot of stuff with him. To tolerate it, no issues, right? Very submissive. And then I would say in the past 2 years, he's become more ornery. If he's in the bed with me and I move my foot, he'll growl at me. He's 8 pounds. I'm like, what are you gonna do, right? The other day I picked him up, and I was like, doing cutesy things with him, and he started to growl at me. Okay, and I was like, all right, little punk, and I corrected him and I put him down.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm a dog trainer, and he's 8 pounds.
Yeah.
But I understand he's not doing it because he's an aggressive dog or anything. He's just 15 and he's ornery, and he's like, you know what, man? I tolerated these things when I was younger. I don't like them anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the issue is here, your dog already has, I would say, a considerable amount of, intensity there, because he's puncturing, right? Because when I come in that's why I ask questions about the bites, because the bites tell me a lot.
Yeah.
The fact that he's already puncturing and has been puncturing, that's a dog who's doing it with intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. If it was like, oh, we had 10 bites, 9 of them are grazes, and he could have bit me, and the 10th one he punctured, I go, okay, that's good. Because we had a timeline of like the dog going, hey, here's a warning bite, and the dog goes, okay, today I'm going to teach you.
Yeah.
Right? So for you, like from the get-go, it sounds like you got, today I'm going to teach you.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So that's the problem.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when you said these issues start to happen at around a year, right? A couple of things. One, COVID dog, right? The prolonged period of isolation, obviously not helping. 2, dogs tend to change at 3 points in their lives. 6 months, a year, and 2 years. Okay, so 6 months would be terrible two's brain, if you remember children, right? Teenager body. A year is teenager brain, adult body. 2 years is adult dog. Okay, so he was going into that teenager brain. Obviously, with teenagers, they protest, they start to go against.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I said, oh, that makes sense, because he's like, all right, I'm a teenager now. I'm going to start asserting myself using my teeth, and he did, and it most likely was rewarded in the sense that nobody pushed him.
Yeah.
Right, and he got what he wanted, and now he's got that ego.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Questions on any of that stuff so far?
Pardon? No,
Questions?
I don't.
No.
It makes sense.
Are you guys in the city?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when it comes to human aggression cases, I always recommend people do in person. Okay, because you're the one that has to live with the dog, not me. Okay, and when we take cases like this to my facility for like boarding trains, a lot of times we don't see the behaviors. Okay.
Right.
Because either one, if we do see the behavior, we correct it right away, and the dog goes, can't do that here.
Yeah.
And they learn the difference. Okay. But when they go home, they go, all right, back in my castle.
Yeah.
And their back is how they are, right?
Right.
You also learn less because we're the one training the dogs, and he's trained with us, and we have to transfer to that you, which is another thing. Right?
Yeah. Right.
I always recommend in person for these kinds of cases. The drawback is it takes longer.
Yeah.
The pro is that you learn so much more.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always recommend in person for these kinds of cases. If it was a milder case, I go, yeah, sure, we can work on it. But this is not mild. This is, I would say, pretty considerable.
Yeah.
Okay?
It is.
Remember, there's going to be changes. There's going to be things that we're going to have to remove as precaution and avoidance. Just like it's easier to avoid a potential situation than it is to try to fix it. I can myself push it and make it happen, but I've been doing this for 15 years. People, they're not dog trainers, right? So I know what to realistically expect, and that's why I do it that way, because it's less likely for there to be regression. Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to me to tell you like, yeah, people are gonna enter your son's room. You know, you can have people come over. That's the thing you can have. Okay, that's doable. Or like, oh yeah, and technically speaking, yes, I can give you a means of getting them off of your son's bed without risk of harm to you, right? But it takes time to get to that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm doing things knowing that there's probably going to be errors of judgment on your behalf because you're not a dog trainer.
Yeah.
And I help you avoid those situations. And I'll even educate you to let you know, like, hey, by the way, this is super common, blah, 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 blah. So then don't do that.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because it happens, okay? Now, can I guarantee, how do you say, a solution for your dog?
Yeah.
That's like a yes and no answer. It's what you're willing to accept and tolerate.
Okay.
Okay. So like I get some cases where I'll tell the client like this dog needs to be muzzled anytime it's out around people with the remote collar on, period.
Yeah.
And the client goes, I don't want to have a muzzle on my dog. Then I'll tell them, then I can't help you.
Yeah.
Because if we end up, that's the worst case scenario. If we end up there, you're already telling me you're not willing to do it. So then I'm just going to tell you right now, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Okay. I get clients that go like, Jesse, I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this dog. and I'll do the muzzle thing, whatever you tell me. I go, okay, I can help you because you're going, I'm willing to do any and all of this stuff so I can keep the dog in the home.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember, this is, of course, for the next 10 to 12 years of his life.
Yeah.
Okay. Going into this, expect there to be failures. It's a part of the process. It's not just I start fixing stuff and all of a sudden things are just hunky-dory, right?
Right.
You're going to make mistakes. It's part of the process. I know what to avoid or things to do so I can avoid certain things, or I'll tell you, like, by the way, for now, don't do this or what have you, so that we avoid those potential situations, but expect them to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I bring that up is I've had clients, they'll do 2 classes, they get bit or something, right? Because they either did something I told them not to, or maybe the dog just bit them, right? And then they just put the dog down and they go like, all right, I'm done with whatever, I want a refund. I go, well, you made a decision out of what we had agreed to, which is we're going to train the dog, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we have a contract and everything. You'll read the contract, there's a whole refund policy, all that stuff. But when we deal with aggression, I just want to be upfront with people, okay? Because what makes this case tricky is the aggression is to a degree inwards to the family. If it was outwards, like only guests, it's easier, right? Because then we go, okay, only when people he doesn't know comes over do we really have to worry.
Yeah,
but
that's
when
not
have,
the case.
It's inwards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have both technically, right?
Right, we do have both.
So that's what makes it trickier.
Yeah.
Right. It's that he's willing to bite his caregivers, and that's why the exposure to risk is greater.
Yeah.
Right. Because that variable is there. When it's just it's when guests come over, and the rest of the day we're fine. It's just we're gonna have Joe come over. We know he's gonna be a nuisance, and then all the training kicks in. Right. But when it's like no, like this even happens when his brother enters the room or his sister enters the room. That's where things get trickier.
Right.
Okay. Question on any of that stuff?
No.
So, in the beginning, expect there to be an increase in anxiety. Okay.
He is on Prozac.
I saw that.
Yeah.
E-collar, in my opinion, doesn't do anything. E-collar is a stressor. Anxiety, nervousness, aggression, all those things are stress responses. Okay. So because we're putting the dog under stress using this thing that he's not aware of, you're going to see him be stressed in the beginning. But as you work them through it, it should start to dip.
Okay.
One thing potentially here is that because the tool goes on the neck and you have to put the collar on the dog. When I get cases like this where the dog is already showing aggression towards its owners, there is possibility that when you go to collar the dog up, he's going to show aggression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially because he's relating of an aversive experience to the
Yeah,
collar.
100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes he shows aggression when I put this on because I have to put him in his cage like this.
I gotcha.
I can't just get him to go in the cage unless I put this on.
I see. Yeah. So is there issues with going into the cage too? Mm-hmm. Like defensiveness?
No, just like
resistance?
Yeah, resistance.
Okay. So, yeah. So is there things that we can do? Yes. Is there things that we can use to protect us? Yes. He's a medium-sized dog. Typically what we use are welding gloves, right?
Yeah.
So the dog can bite and you can feel them,
Yeah.
but they can't puncture, or they shouldn't be able to puncture.
Sometimes I use the oven mitts.
Oven mitts, yeah. So welding gloves are better. They're a little bit stiffer,
Yeah.
but there's more protection there.
Okay.
In terms of the thickness and stuff.
Yeah.
Where they're unable to puncture whereas kitchen mitts, it's really just like the cloth and then like some cotton or something.
Yeah.
Right. So there's more ability for the dog to puncture. But we do think we have to push those things in order for us to get from point A to point B. If we don't push them, you're just going to fall short and then we don't make progress.
And I would wear those if I noticed that he's mad about the collar.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes. So like at my facility, like we've had it happen where dogs are being aggressive towards me and my staff, and we have to like muzzle them up or whatever. We use the welding gloves and stuff to help us be able to do that as safely as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really every class is played by ear. You're my feedback. So if we had the first class and between class 1 and class 2, like Jesse, by the third day, we're having a hard time putting the collar on, then I go, all right, here's some tips. If you still can't do it, the next class, we're going to cover putting the collar on, right? Because until we can get that done consistently, we're really not going to make progress.
Right.
So like I had a case smaller than him who was biting the owners, like the actual like owners. They couldn't collar him, they couldn't leash him, but he was like half his size.
Yeah.
Okay. He wouldn't go in the kennel. Like it was all this, and he was a bully, but he was smaller. But they pushed through everything, and now the dog is better with them than the dog is with their parents. Because before the dog was better with the parents, because the parents were just like, whatever, I'm gonna just push through this. And then with the owners, the dog was bullying because they were too soft, and then we flipped it.
Yeah.
So now the dog is good with the owners, but now the dog misbehaves with the the parents because they're not reinforcing the training.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, again, all this stuff is played by ear. You're my feedback, and then we just push things one class at a time. Okay. In regards of what program I'd recommend for you,
Yeah.
I'd recommend definitely my longer program, which is the 12-week program.
Yeah.
Behavior is, how do you say, like obedience is concrete to a degree. I know what I can get done in a period of time, pending the owner is doing the homework. Okay. Behavior, however, is a lot of variables. Okay. We have the dog, we have the owners, we have, like I said, let's say into the first week, 3 days in, is like, Jesse, we can't collar up the dog because he's being aggressive, right? We don't know what to do. I send you an email, try this. Maybe it's not working. We really can't do anything until the next class.
Yeah.
Right? So then you might lose a couple of days there.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's just part of the process. I don't really recommend people do 2 a week because there's not enough time in between to let things happen.
Yeah.
Right? So like when you come back and you go, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, right?
Yeah.
I go, good. I forget about that now.
Yeah.
I start doing something different, right? But if I see you within a couple of days, there's not enough time to see what's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because it happens. Like people are like, Jesse, I want to see you 2 times a week, 3 times a week. I go, no, trust me, you need at least a week between classes to see what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. Okay.
So worst case scenario is I just tell people like, leave the dog alone until I see you next.
Yeah.
It's not going to get worse.
Yeah.
Like we're already here. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like the problem's already here. So it's not going to get worse.
Right.
Okay. So, but again, emotionally people get worked up and they just want it done really fast. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like with humans, like if someone who's trying to like quit drugs, it's not going to be like that. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. There's going to be failures and there's going to be successes. The same thing here with the dog. Okay. So I'd recommend definitely my 12-week program. We do have another program, which is the behavior program. That's my most expensive one. I think it's anywhere in the realms of between like $4,250 or $5,000. The reason why it's so expensive is it's one tailored for aggression cases. But what people don't understand is that it's for the life of the dog. Okay. So let's say I assess the case, I tell you 12, 16 classes, right? That's going to happen regardless with that program. We fully off-leash train the dog, and then we make sure to push all the behavior stuff. But if something happens in 2 years, like let's say everything's good, you're like, hey Jesse, we're happy, we've made a lot of progress. He's not perfect, but this is way better than it was. I go, great. Fast forward 2 years, something changes. You move, one of the kids moves out, whatever, right? And he changes, it happens. And then you go, hey Jesse, this happened, he's regressed, we need you to come back, right? I come back at no charge.
Okay.
It's included with the program. I'll come back, I'll reassess, and I'll tell you, you're gonna need 2 or 4 classes to fix this.
Yeah.
You go in and book them with Tina. I come back, we do the classes. If for whatever reason we need another class, again, I come back. Essentially what you're paying for is like a warranty to a degree, but it's for the rest of the dog's life.
Okay.
So like I have a client, I trained their dog way back when, like 12 years ago. They did my behavior program and it was super cheap at the time, okay? They still call to ask questions and stuff. Because their dog is like a dog like this, where it's a severe case, right? And they always offer to pay me more money, and I know they're capable of paying me more money, but I go, no, we signed a contract on a behavior case, even though you only paid $1,000, I'm honoring the contract of this was long-term lifetime for the dog. Okay?
Yeah.
So obviously now as things have progressed, my the price for that program has gone up a lot, but it's for the next 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. Okay. So that really is for the peace of mind. But then just keep in mind, if also trying to rehome them is like in the cards, that is completely separate of like the behavior program. What I've had people do is if they've rehomed the dog to someone they know or whatever, I will transfer the program to the new owner. I don't have a problem with that,
okay.
Right? But if someone goes, hey, I paid $5,000 for the behavior program and I decided to rehome my dog, give me my money back, I go, that's not what we agreed on.
Yeah.
The agreement was you're going to keep the dog, and I'm willing to come back as needed when you need me to fix things if something happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have both options. The 12-week program is a set time. You pay for 12 classes. I come in, I get as much as I can done. If we end up needing more classes, you're paying for more classes. Okay. The behavior program, I come in, I go, we're gonna do 12 to 16 regardless, right? If we end up needing more, no problem. We'll do that. And then I go, once everybody's happy, thank you for the opportunity. Let me know if you need anything. And if something comes in the future, you call us, I reassess, I address, you don't pay more money.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Questions on any of that stuff?
No.
So, I would just put this guy on the higher output collar, okay? Again, it's nothing good or bad. I don't know his level of aggression in the sense of how crazy he gets,
yeah.
but I do know he means it.
Yeah.
So I would rather have you have the best collar there is,
Yeah.
and not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Because dogs can override collars. If I put a collar not meant for him, like a small dog collar, I've been maxed out and the dog just does not feel it. They don't care because they're so adrenalized, they're so in that state of stress. So I just, in these cases, I'll tell the client, just go with the high-powered collar. It's a few more bucks. It's the best collar there is. It's just one thing to not have to worry about, because I've had it happen where the client will get a cheaper collar and then it doesn't work. And then they have to stop the training to return the collar, get a new collar if they can get a new collar, or end up paying more money for the new collar.
Right.
And then come back and then we have to kind of start all over again. Okay? So, questions on any of that stuff?
No. Where do I get the collar from?
You can get it through us or you can get it online. Tina would send you the information. I don't care where you get the collar from. I just care that you get the correct collar.
Right.
Okay. So it's called the Dog Trail Black Edition. When you receive the collar, it'll literally say Black Edition. You don't want to order off of Chewy. Okay. Chewy for sure. Amazon is hit and miss. Sometimes the owner will order the right collar. Amazon will send them the wrong collar. And then they show up and I go, that's not the Black Edition. And they go, but I paid, it said Black, and they'll show me and I go, yes, this is correct. That is not correct. And I'll show them the box. I go, it does not say Black Edition. It's a completely separate model. Okay. So I don't care where you get it from, but I just do care that you get the correct model. So double check, should you move forward with training, that you, if it says Black Edition, go like, okay, this is correct. This is what I'm supposed to have. Okay. When it comes to booking time and stuff, that's all done with Tina.
Okay.
I've learned just not to talk about my calendar because she could have other people kind of in the process of booking and I don't see it yet. And I go, oh yeah, Saturday's open or something like that. And the next thing you know, Saturday's booked up.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point, we're going to have to do in-homes. So I train mostly here for obedience stuff, okay? There's some stuff that we can do at my facility as well, which is located near the West Loop.
Okay.
I'm on Lake in Sacramento, just west of California there, to help kind of cut cost. But when I have to do the in-homes, there is a $50 upcharge because I have to leave what I'm doing to go see you and then come back. So it usually takes time out my day. Or we're putting you at the end of my day when really I should be going home, but it's the only time we can put you, so I have to do that instead, okay? So once we get to a certain point, your case, I'll let you know, does feel like a more in-home case.
Yeah.
Okay. You also have the opportunity or the option of going, I want all my classes in-home. Not really necessary because the obedience stuff can be done anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the behavior stuff that's going to have to be done in home. People entering your son's room, people entering the home. Right. Obviously, that has to be done inside the house. I can't like replicate that there.
Right.
Okay. So there's a $50 upcharge per class for the in homes. Typically, those are done as a play by ear or as needed basis. Okay. So we'll get to a point where I said, okay, everything's looking good. Now we want to do an in home with people coming over or what have you. Talk to Tina, and most likely she may have to move you. So like if like today I'm 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, half hour lunch, 12:30 to 1, like I'm back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
Okay. She'll most likely, if you're in one of those slots, have to move you to a separate time because since I'm already back to back on a recurring basis, I'm usually training in the evenings, early mornings, or if I have the day off, I'll see the client on the day off just because there's no time on my calendar otherwise. Okay. Any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
So nothing I've not seen before. Again, the tricky thing is just that it's inwards. It's towards its people. One thing that is good is that it's all predictable in the sense that this is all territorial behavior, right? So once you understand territorial behavior, you can work around certain things.
Yeah.
Right. So like I know if Rocky has a sock, I wouldn't even go to him to take the sock. I would go to my fridge, open up, grab a piece of cheese, go, hey Rocky, look what I got. He comes running over for the piece of cheese. I throw it on the ground. I walk over to the sock. I put it away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Yeah. And it's a solution. Does it fix the aggression over the sock? No. But does it let you take the sock away without getting bit? Yes.
Yeah. Does it teach him that he should have a sock for a treat? Yes.
Sure. But it's not gonna. Long term, he's never gonna learn socks aren't mine. He's gonna keep doing it. Right.
Yeah.
But it just helps us work around the problem without any risk or harm to the people, right?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not against, even though I know it's not going to work long term, I go, it's not a problem because it avoids you getting bit.
Yeah.
And that's all I really care about, okay? So I'm a blend of certain things that will stop and deter things, but then also going, realistically speaking, these are just your backup plans. Because it happens. While we're working on the sock thing, in the middle of working with the sock thing, he gets a sock, he doesn't have his collar on, and then we're like, okay, what do we do here? Use your treat, redirect him,
Yeah.
avoid the bite, okay? Last thing is, I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. And then for the remote collar, it's not something that you just train and then it's done. This is a lifestyle, okay? So once you understand how to live with a dog like this, it's really just practicing and reinforcing those things over the course of the rest of his life to help mitigate any more potential situations. Okay? Anything else?
Who goes to training with me? Just me?
Whoever would be a direct handler, I always focus on the primary handlers. So if it's you and your husband or your son or what have you, I would work with you guys first. I will work with anybody else as well that wants to, but I have to focus on at least 1, 2 people. Anything more than that starts to stretch out the information, okay? We do record the sessions. I do send you a copy of the video, so this way you go, okay, I have this as a resource, and I can send it to other kids or whatever. Or like, let's say you can make it, but your husband can or what have you. You can send it. Go, hey, this is what we covered for the class. Okay. The only ones I try not to that I may not record are the in-homes, just because it's privacy of your own home. But then also it's time consuming to pack up and all that stuff. Now, if you want it, I'll be with you right in a second, Jamie. You can always request and say, hey, Jesse, please record the in-homes so that this way we have them, because obviously that's where the issue is as well.
Yeah.
And then I'll send you the link or whatever. So I leave it optional to the client. But you just have to let me know first, because my assumption typically is people don't want me to record inside their home.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
I would definitely say think this through. Talk to your family. If you end up deciding to rehome him, I'll talk to Tina to see if we can get that other trainer's information.
Yeah.
Because from what I heard and what I understand, he or she specializes in these kinds of cases. I don't know if there's a fee that you pay and then he rehomes them for you, or she rehomes them.
I can't go that route yet.
You know.
Maybe later, but.
So okay.
Okay.
Awesome. I'll grab your mic here.
Oh yeah. Get it.
Okay, and if you have any questions you forgot to ask, just let us know and Tina will get back to you.
Okay.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day and don't forget your things here. Pleasure.